has been late for a show or two, so sometimes you just got to wait for the good stuff. But let's get going. Live from the YouTube machine, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and tonight we welcome you to Mom's Basement, where we're going to share how to become a ninja with an El Camino. See, first, we'll dive into the merits of a dual barrel carb, and then the value of a crushed velvet interior. So what's that now? Oh, we're not covering the El Camino. Okay, we'll just move on to the retirement calculator. I guess we'll just teach you how to become a ninja with retirement calculators. What are some of the mistakes people make? What are some of the clever moves you should use calculators for? We'll cover all that and more with our special guest, the man behind the company that builds robust calculators from Boldin. It's Steve Chen. And if you're with us live and you'd like to win a subscription to the Boldin calculator and a copy of Joe's book, Stacked, Your Super Serious Guide to Modern Money Management, stick around because halfway through today's event, you'll have a chance to win that fabulous prize package behind door number 3 by submitting an answer to my incredible trivia. And now, two guys who have calculated the odds that this video goes viral. It's Joe and O-G. Any second now.
I just had to make sure that we're finally live.
Caught behind the curtains back there.
I had to make sure we're finally live. I can't believe we're finally live. You guys have no idea. This thing works 1,000% of the time, except when we need it to work. We got looks like 185 people waiting for us on a different channel while we are over here. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Stacking Benjamins live event. I am Joe Saul-Sehy, and right next door to me is the OG, who's just checking his sound, making sure he's got the sound all set up.
I think Doug's got something playing in the background.
Oh, there is somebody's got
Joe's got something playing in a different background.
Yeah, something. I don't know. Somebody's playing it somewhere. This has been fun. This has been who's playing the.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's dead silent in my corner, and I don't hear anything. It's dead silent in my corner of the basement.
Oh, okay.
I can hear. You guys have no idea how fun this has been. So welcome to a live event. If you didn't know it was a live event, you know it's a live event now, right? The guy across the card table from me is the OG. How are you, brother?
Yeah, great, fantastic. Stretch it out. Stretch out the open.
We are going to be talking about retirement calculators and making them your superpower tonight. It's going to be super fun. OG, this is an important topic because when it comes to I think the main reason people make mistakes, especially in the little bit bumpy market that we had the first half of this year, you start second guessing your strategy. And when you've got those milestones, you've got the plan and you work the timeline, I think you're going to make far fewer mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, when it comes to retirement planning calculations, the way that you look at it is over a 25 or 30-year time horizon. So if you make your decisions over 25 or 30-year time horizons, it's a lot easier. But when you start piecing that into or changing that into really short time periods, it's gonna be a lot harder to make good decisions, especially if you don't have like a plan that shows that this stuff has been built in. I sent a note to all of our newsletter people and clients at the beginning of April. And I said, this is part of the plan. Like this is in it. Like what's happening is already there. So we don't have to do anything different.
And as we've talked on the show before about the investments, the importance of an investment policy statement, what to work from, really the plan guides your investment policy from the beginning. So 100%. How much do you need? How much do you need? It really is a simple equation, OG. How much money do you need to save? What return do you need to get on that money, right? Mm-hmm. Equals the goal. And then that gives you 3 levers that you can play with. Number 1 is maybe I need to save more. Maybe I can save less. Second thing that you can do is you can take more risk with your investments. Of course, that's going to change the bumpiness of the ride, or you might be taking too much risk and you could back down your risk. The third thing is if you find out that you're comfortable with the risk level that you have and you find out that you're you're over saving, you could push the goal up. You could retire earlier or spend more money in retirement. But it really simply is getting those 3 levers in line that I think is really the most fun about using a calculator.
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately just gives you the freedom to make the decisions that are most. I wouldn't necessarily agree with the you can be riskier. There's a limit to that in terms of human behavior and whatnot. But I definitely do think it gives you some insight into. I think mostly how impactful small changes can be. Like if you add the extra $100 a month and you decide to retire 2 years later, like how that stacks in terms of compounding over a long period of time is pretty profound.
Yeah, I think that we'll get into the calculator right now with our friend Steve. So let's talk about this. If you want to check out the Boldin calculator, this is my favorite calculator. It's the closest thing to what I used when I was a professional. I don't see many calculators that are this level, give you this amount of flexibility like I had. Our goal tonight, though, is not to sell you the Boldin calculator. That is not our goal. Our goal is, no matter what calculator you use, to make sure that you use it well and you know where the sticking points are that trip up a bunch of people. So I want to be clear about that. However, I like the calculator enough that we decided to partner with Steve. If you want to check it out, let me put this on the screen. If I can figure out one piece of, let's see if this works right. Look at that, Doug. Wow. I got something to work right. StackingBenjamins.com/calculator is the place to go and check out the Boldin calculator. That helps the show. And you can see just how robust it is. Our guest tonight builds calculators. He's the guy behind Boldin, and he and his team are always updating, always working it to make sure that it's every bit the robust calculator that we think that you need. So let's see if I can work another knob and get Steve Chen here with us. Can I do it? Holy cow, Steve.
I am.
Once we figured out how to get this YouTube machine working, like life was pretty good. How are you, man?
I'm good. Good to be here. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Super happy to have you. Glad that you could make time for us and for all the stackers. And so, guys, here's what's going to happen. We're going to talk to Steve for about 20 minutes and really dive into some of the mistakes people make. We're going to talk about some of the best practices people have. But the second half of this is going to be your questions. And at the halfway point, we're going to give away 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 Boldin subscriptions and 3 copies of this amazing book. I know it's Doug's favorite book. Doug, would you like me to show the book?
I like the pictures. Lots of pictures.
My book's stacked. We'll give away 3 of these and 3 calculators. So stay tuned for Doug's amazing trivia at the halfway point. But Steve, let's start here. What are some of the biggest mistakes? Well, let me ask you this, because on the promotion for this, we're like, why most calculators suck? And I guess my question is, do the calculators suck or do we suck because we don't know how to use them very well?
Good question. I think mostly it's humans suck. Like humans have a hard time managing their own behavior. That like we keep hurting ourselves over and over. I mean, the one thing you can count on is that human behavior doesn't change very much. And that's why like every time the stock market goes like this, like we just saw, everyone's like, this time it's different. It's never going to, like we're all ruined. It's never going to come back. And then like literally 1 month after Liberation Day, like if you went to sleep for 30 days, you wouldn't have known that the market went down 20 to 30%. The rates went all over the place. You kind of like, you come back and it's the same as it was, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. We blow ourselves up. We blow up our plan.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like one thing that was a bummer is that, during that time, I saw people, on social media and in the news talking about, I'm selling it all. I can't take this risk. People are like cashing out their 401ks, was getting written about. And those are moves that, one, cost you, because if you're before your retirement age, there's penalties and stuff like that. And most people, when they sell out during a downturn, then they're not sure about when to get back in. And then they sit out the market. And, there's the adage about, if you miss the top 10 days of the stock market over some period of time, you're going to miss whatever, 80% of the upside. And unfortunately, that's real. And people have to kind of avoid that, those risks.
Absolutely. I think when you have the plan in writing in front of you, and frankly, I think Steve, also just going through the process of creating the plan, just that thoughtful time, no matter what you come out with, really, I think that's really time well spent.
100%. I think Eisenhower said plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. I think that's exactly right. Like getting in there, taking the time to kind of with us, we think about planning as a lifetime exercise, right? So you're getting educated as you do it, right? You're kind of seeing where you stand, seeing what's possible, and then understanding those levers that you have. So the process of doing this has value, and it just makes you think, about where you are today, where you want to get to. And, it's also very with us community driven. So we're learning with other people. What are they thinking about? One thing we're seeing that's really cool is these little micro communities getting formed up where people kind of get together with folks that they may not even know, but they're connecting and doing these Zoom meetups and talking about,
that's cool.
What could happen in the future.
That's cool. The combination of a calculator and a community of people helping each other is pretty awesome. All right. What are the biggest mistakes you see people make over and over and over when they oops on their calculator and they come up with some solution that might be a mirage?
Yeah, well, I think, back to the behavior thing, I think the biggest thing we see people do is doing nothing, right? Like that's our biggest competitor for us, like, or anyone selling anything. It's like inertia. People just don't do anything. So there's that, but hopefully, people do get started. I think, not taking enough risk, right? So people do need to take risk. Like you do need to learn to save, right? Which involves learning to manage your expenses and understanding that. And then once you're saving, you have to invest. Like I made this mistake in my own life. As an entrepreneur, I'm like, okay, great. I work hard, I save money, and I was piling up cash, but I wasn't investing it or enough of it and aggressively enough. And that costs you money because inflation lowers the buying power of your dollars over time. So you need to invest to stay ahead of inflation. And it's like, compounding is like the eighth wonder of the world. It really makes a huge difference. The thing is, you have a hard time seeing that until you're kind of like 10 years into it.
Well, and this is OG. What I really like about using a calculator is everybody says that they're conservative, right? I'm conservative. Using a calculator, you can see the direct result of how that can destroy your plan.
Yeah, or save it. Depends.
Or save it. Right.
Depends.
Good point.
I mean, ultimately, when you're building your financial plan, at the end of the day, I think having the knowledge of here's the expected return that I need, or the needed return, I guess you could say, for my plan to be successful. Because you can't, you could build a plan that says, well, I just have to save $11,000 a month and everything would be great. It's like, well, I don't have 11,000 a month to save. Like I can manage my expenses. I can save, I can cut where I need to and be efficient and all that sort of stuff. But if it's just a number that's not a number that's realistic, there's the other lever that to your point from before, Joe, the other lever that you can pull is rate of return to a point, obviously. But I find that once people understand that, hey, this is the impact of, this rate of return, here's what happens in the long run, and here's the variability that happens with that, they're much more likely to stick with the plan during times when things are not so fun, like the last month or 2022 or the COVID period or something like that, because it's like, okay, that's part of it. This is all baked into, to get 8, you got to be okay with minus 20. That's right. Already part of the deal. Like that's the trade-off. So, so by illustrating that, I think people are a little bit more comfortable with sticking with it when things don't go their way. It's easy to be aggressive when things are going great.
I know one thing we've seen a lot lately, Steve, is inflation. And I would have to guess that when people mess up, like putting everything into the calculator, like I got to believe a lot of people miss inflation or do inflation wrong.
Yep. Yeah, I think one thing, I'll show you this so you can kind of see the impact to bring it to life a bit. And let's see, I'm going to do my screen share. Is it okay if I do a screen share?
Going back to technology. Yeah, just watch out. Technology. It took us forever to get this thing rolling.
Let's see, here we go. All right, entire screen. Let's see if I could do this thing. It's thinking about it. All right, here we go. Share. Hopefully you can see this. Boom. Looks like you can.
There we go. Nice.
Yeah, right. So like this is our platform. This is a fully built out plan, right? And I think one thing, you'll obviously this person has a little bit more money. They're approaching retirement. They've been doing a good job of saving, and we kind of, as you look forward, you see their net worth, and we run a bunch of stats around their probability of success and forecast their net worth and things like that. But if you look at this, right, this was projected in today's dollars, right? So this is like kind of constant dollars. And a lot of folks, when they're doing this stuff, they don't understand the difference between today's dollars and future dollars. And future dollars are inflation adjusted, right? So if you flip this to future dollars, people see this and are like, "Oh, I'm going to have almost $16 million, later in my life." That seems like a huge amount of money, but the reality is, when you look at it in today's dollars, you know, you're going to go from 3.5 to 5.8. Yeah, you're going to build wealth.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? But it's not going to be that. So I think that's like an example of like in a very simple way of seeing the impact of inflation. Really, users, it's really good for them to kind of understand the difference between today's dollars versus future dollars, because essentially this $6 million buys the same amount of money, goods and services, as this $16 million. And really, what we care about is like our ability to use our money to pay for our lives and travel or whatever we want to do, or give things to our heirs and kids and stuff.
Sure. And you could show the difference that, let's say, inflation accelerates for a while. You could input that.
Yeah. So the thing about our platform is that it does allow like a huge amount of control. So you can do things like, down here, actually, in expenses, I think, by the way, I'm getting, this is, this is, when you're in here, like we do things, where you can control like your spending, right? So in this simple case, I'm spending in this case, like, hey, I'm spending a certain amount of money, pre-retirement, less early retirement, less later retirement. There's the kind of the go, slow go, no go.
Yeah.
But that kind of control, you can do the same kind of thing with returns. So you can say, hey, for this period of time, I think that I'm going to have, different returns. So you can be in here and be like, okay, hey, I expect to get, I'm getting moderately aggressive returns. This is how my portfolio is invested at this time, right? And in the future, I'm going to change this to be conservative. And so, and people do this, right? They'll be like, hey, I'm invested, and then I think I don't need to have the same level of returns, and I want to turn down my risk.
Well, sure. When you're rolling along, you're more than 10 years away from retirement. I mean, it makes sense to put your foot on the gas. And then as we get closer to needing that dollar, then we show a lower rate of return, but also more safety that we can get at the money. Like, we can more safely access the money without worrying about the market being down.
Yep, exactly. I think the thing that people like about this platform is that it puts kind of industrial strength planning in the hands of, regular people, and it's either free or, $10 a month. It's pretty inexpensive. And so a lot of our users, it's not mutually exclusive with an advisor. Many folks have advisors, and they'll be like, okay, great, but look, I built this over the weekend. They'll send this to the advisor. And a lot of folks we make it easy to kind of control all the variables, but also build scenarios like, oh, what happens if I, retire at 57? Well, you can kind of bring the scenario up, and it'll show you, the difference. So
can we talk about, can we talk about another mistake I think a lot of people make?
Sure.
I think, I don't know, OG, tell me if I'm right or wrong here. This, I guess it's lumpiness of these expenses. Like, let's say that you're going to buy an RV right at retirement. I mean, now you're going to take a bunch more money out one year. You're going to take out a bunch more money out one year than you'll take out other years. You know what I mean? Your expenses are not the same every year. And I think that we sometimes fall into a trap of using a calculator and just saying, okay, I'm going to spend $70,000 a year, but without taking into account the first year, I'm going to take out, $120,000.
Well, you have to remember that in the second year, then you put in $62,000 after you sell your RV back. Don't forget to
once you realize
include that it may not be as glamorous as you think. And when it comes to planning, there's so many levels of complication. I know that some people might look at this and go, holy crap, I don't even know where to start. Obviously, Steve, you've got a onboarding way to deal with this and, kind of a guided tour. So it's not like you just go here, good luck. There's some guidance there that, that you can kind of get into, but you can go as simple as an Excel worksheet, right? If you're just trying to point the boat in the right direction and start rowing, if you're trying to get into a little bit more detail, you can build a shell of this. You can go crazy into it and say, from a cash flow standpoint, yeah, I'm going to have this lumpy expense, and I'm going to do a big trip with the kids and grandkids once every 3 years until I'm 80. And so it's really limited just to your imagination. I don't know that, I don't know that that's a big mistake that people make in terms of like forgetting that those things happen in terms of the lumpy expenses like you're talking about. But I do think it's important to, as you get closer and some things start getting more solidified in terms of what you find passionate or what you want to do, that you account for that. When you're 35 and you're building your first, retirement plan on this calculator or other ones, you may not know that you want to get an RV at 65 and travel the world. And that's okay. You can still say, well, I think I'm gonna spend $10,000.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, a lot of our users are engineers and kind of technical people. A lot of people have built their own spreadsheets, right? That's where a lot of people start, and that's where we started. I mean, when I built this company, like when we built this because we were helping my mom figure out her own situation, and like we couldn't attract a financial advisor, so we did it ourselves, and we built these spreadsheets, my brother and I, and like we're kind of going through all this stuff, income, expenses, assets, and debt. And we're trying to figure out Social Security and healthcare and Medicare, and we're like, this is complicated. How come nothing exists? So that's why we created the software. But yeah, and it does, OG, it does go from, it can start simple. It does start simple. A lot of people, the majority of our users use the free version, and then about 25% of people upgrade, and they're like, great, I actually want to have this level of control. It's worth, the 2 lattes a month for me to, be able to strategically manage my money the way I want. And like I built this little thing for you. If you, go buy the RV, guess what? Spending $200,000 in an RV is going to cost you almost $500,000 in your estate, and it's going to, it's going to impact your plan these different ways. And so,
the actual effects of that, like what's the cost? What's the true cost?
It decreased my probability of like, having enough money by 7% from 95 to 88%. So like, it's easy to do that. And so you can decide, is it worth that trade-off? Right.
We're having a nice, robust discussion on online here. I do want to highlight one from Leisure Enthusiast 22, who Steve says, that's a whole lot of open tabs. Very impressive.
Yeah, one thing that's happening, this whole combination of talking about technical stuff, like our site actually usually runs really quicker, but I think combination of like broadcasting and like me messing around this thing is like slowing down my laptop.
7,000 tabs open.
By the way, I was what is it called? Curating. I was grooming my tabs right before this to try and bring it down.
I think so. This is only half of what Steve usually has open. Let's talk about another thing I think people mess up often, Steve, which is, you've got all these income streams coming from different places, right? You've got Social Security coming in. You might have a pension coming in. You might be taking distributions from someplace. Like, I feel like the income stream bucket we often forget about, or we just try to throw a dart at, versus getting a little more granular. What's the effect of showing that or forgetting to show that?
Yeah, I think, we call ourselves Boldin, like your financial confidence platform. And people build confidence, I think, by kind of having some level of mastery over whatever situation they're in. And so for us, it's like, we do know that many people want to understand this. Like, the thing about retirement is, so I interviewed Bob Merton, the Nobel Prize winner, right? And he was the guy from Long-Term Capital Management, if you go way back, like when the whole thing like went sideways, but talk about crises. But anyway, what he was sharing was that like the main thing that people get wrong is they think of retirement as like an asset game, right? Like you're just trying to have a big pile of money. It's like, really what you want to think about is having enough income that lasts the rest of your life. And when we went from pensions to defined contribution 401k, everybody had to become their own personal CFO. Like, we're like, okay, good luck, America, 300 million people, right? And good luck, world population, 8 billion people. You got to learn all about your money and how to manage it. And So what we're trying to do is like, people want to dive in and kind of understand their numbers. And so if you want to go this deep, you can kind of get into like, what, where's my income coming from, my drawdowns, and like
the different colors or different sources of income. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, exactly. So like, you got investment income, right? RMDs, required minimum distributions, life, savings drawdown, work. You can see this in the platform. And then your expenses, what's driving it? Healthcare costs are a big thing. Like, hey, we put the RV in there, your mortgage, long-term care. So people can see how their income and expenses come together, and make sure that like people get into these plans, and like every year they're like, okay, here's my portfolio, here's my my income, and then they come back a year later and they kind of reset everything and track it.
And by the way, stackers, I know that, we're diving into some nerdy stuff. I really like, Steve, what you said earlier, which is just use the basics first. Begin with the basics, build maybe just a set income stream, make sure you get inflation right, and then begin get a little bit more granular as you go. I think that because I think in some cases, we get granular right away and then we get freaked out and then we just throw the calculator away, which is not what we want to do. But speaking of getting granular, and I said that as a prelude because that's what I want to do here, is that sometimes you mentioned taking required minimum distributions out, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will wait on required minimum distributions. And OG, that for some people, this can be a mistake, because if I wait to take money out of my pre-tax plans, I might end up costing myself a lot more money in taxes later versus maybe taking the money earlier.
Well, I think that, as you were talking about mistakes and income and expenses and things like that, I was thinking about how I would kind of phrase that all together in terms of a mistake that I think about, which is not understanding how the different streams of income will work downstream from one another. Mm-hmm. And what happens when you have a big non-qualified account with lots of dividends or a big capital gain, and how that affects other things. Like, how does it affect your Social Security income taxation? Right? Like what are the bend points in that, and paying attention to it, right? It's kind of sucks to be just over, or the wonderful thing that everybody talks about now, IRMA, right? Which is your surcharge relative to your Medicare premiums. When you make a bunch of money, the Medicare is not as generous to you. It's just like, and the crazy thing is that it's a 2 year ago problem. And so a lot of times you don't even like match it up in your brain. You're like, why all of a sudden did my Medicare premiums go up? That was 2 years ago when I did that. Why am I getting penalized for it right now? It just takes a while to sort it out. But I think, thinking about these cash flow items and saying, okay, here's the do nothing plan. Here's the, what if I take my, qualified distributions, I start taking money on my qualified accounts a little bit earlier. How does it affect my taxation? How does it affect Social Security distributions? Can I defer my Social Security to 70 because I'm drawing down from my IRAs earlier? So you know what I mean? Like that, now we're starting to put different ideas out there, or, of course, the fun one, which is like Roth conversions and that sort of stuff. So
yeah, I'll show you how this comes together. I mean, I think that you're right. One of the things that we've done that's different is we are showing people how all this stuff relates, and that you're exactly right.
The biggest thing is just it's being empowered to know the info so that you can make a good decision. You mentioned confidence before, Steve. It's like, I feel confident when I know I've got all good information and I can make a decision that's good for me and my family because I know I've got good info I'm looking at.
That's right. So we, a couple things about that. So one, we allow people to link accounts. So you can link accounts through Plaid, Meld. These are account aggregations, so your numbers are live. I think the other big thing is, people build their own spreadsheets, and people come to me and like, hey, I built this, like this, my super spreadsheet's better than your platform. I'm like, okay, great.
Awesome.
And
good job.
You spent, hundreds of hours building it. Like, I don't know what you value your time at, but like, hey, if you value your time at like $5 an hour, maybe it's a great investment. But do you know it's right? I mean, the thing that we have is 400,000 people have built plans on this thing. We have 20,000 people on Facebook, a bunch of people on Reddit. People are, messaging, thousands of people are messages every week about like what's good. We're always fixing it, right? It's never, I'm not saying like it's 100, like we're always working on this thing too, but you have a lot of other very smart people looking at it and kind of like calling BS if they think that something's wrong. And I think that's, you also don't want to make mistakes, right? You don't want to there are these one-time doors you get to walk through, like, how do you claim Medicare, right? Do you get, you take preferred, you take like regular Medicare, right? And when do you claim Social Security, and all that stuff, and your spouse. So you want to make these decisions effectively.
So the effects of taxation on this stuff, then, I guess to talk about taxes, you'll be able to show how this income comes in, and the tax effect on all the income, Steve, as it comes in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I wanted to show you, like, let me show you this Roth conversion thing, because that's something we touched on earlier. So one of the strategies that people do is a lot of our users are 401k millionaires, right? They've been working and saving their whole life, making good decisions, and then they're like, okay, great, I'm heading towards retirement, and I have $1 million or $1.5 million, and I'm heading to have more. But that is also going to mean I have high RMDs. We talk to users; they're going to have more income in retirement than they had when they're working. And they're going to pay more taxes.
More taxable income.
More taxable income. Yeah. All that 401k dollars comes out as income, as income taxable dollars. So people will come in here and they'll be like, okay, I want to solve for, taking money out of the 22% tax bracket. And what we're doing here is we let users kind of set a bunch of parameters and say, okay, help me figure out how to do Roth conversions, right? And so what this thing is doing is, I didn't optimize. I kind of picked some random optimizations, but basically it'll say, hey, you can solve for different strategies. So like I could solve for highest estate value. All right. Hang on a sec. I might have to, let me see if this will let me do this. Anyway, it will go off and run a bunch of simulations behind the scenes, right? To kind of figure out how you could potentially do better, and you can control the parameters. And so it will tell you like, oh, you can consider doing these conversions from these accounts, and this is how it affects your plan. It helps you think through the tax rate implications and the tax liability, and also IRMA, the Medicare means testing. So we're putting pretty powerful tools in the hands of users and letting them kind of like get into this themselves, right? This used to be the domain of only your CFG, and
sure.
So,
well, and again, when you want to, if you want to dive into the depths, you want to make sure you've got a tool that will help you do that. Let's get Doug back out here. Steve, we're going to give you a short break because we promised everybody that we're going to give 3 subscriptions away and 3 copies of my book. And so let's see, there we go. Doug, you ready with today's trivia question?
Sure am, Joe. Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and look at all of you beautiful people out there. I mean, you think your cameras are off, but I know a guy, and I'm looking at you, and also at you, and would you move at you in the back? I mean, I gotta say, most stackers are friendly and they're good-looking bunch, but except that one guy back there. I mean, run a comb through your hair once in a while, dude. You're on the internet. Look presentable. Today, let's dole out a dose of some calculator-related trivia. The first mechanical calculator was created by none other than my old friend Blaise Pascal.
Oh, Blaise.
Blaise. Blaise designed for evil reasons. I'm telling you, get this. Blaise designed his calculator to assist his dad, who was a tax collector.
Oh.
To assist him performing calculations related to sucking the joy out of all the citizens for centuries to come. It could add and subtract numbers directly. It could also perform multiplication and division through repeated addition and subtraction. Pretty advanced for its time. I'll bet you're looking it up right now. When was the Pascaline calculator invented? So you can win a 1-year subscription to Boldin Calculator and that copy of Joe's book. But no, this ain't our first square dance, kids. Because the internet exists, we've also already done that work for you. I'm just going to tell you, he invented it in 1642. That's not the question. But we're going to ask this instead. What year did famous Stacking Benjamins contributor Paula Pant guess when we asked her what year it was invented? I'm going to
Can't
give you a
look
little,
that one up, can you?
no, I'm going to give you a little help here, folks. Paula is consistently the worst person on the planet at trivia. I mean, she's got awards for how bad she is. Just one guess per person, people. Use the comments in YouTube to send us your guess. Also tell us where you're listening to us right now. I'm sorry to say people from Ohio are ineligible. Look, I don't make the rules. It's not my call.
Doug's like, I don't make the rules, even though Doug just made up that rule.
Yeah. I'll be back at the end of the event with our winner.
Good stuff, man. Thank you so much. Let's get back into this. So everybody give us your guesses. We're going to give away 3 of these at the end here in about 20 minutes. So in just a couple minutes, we're going to take your questions. But Steve, let's talk about this. I want to talk about setting up benchmarks, and maybe like if I'm on the fence about something, right? In fact, somebody in the chat was talking about discretionary expenses. Like, okay, I'm thinking I might want to do this thing, but instead, maybe I'll do this other thing. Like, what if I'm comparing 2 things? Is there some type of if-then stuff that we can use to make this decision easier?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to go back in here.
Deal.
So back up here. So a couple things. We let people have controls like, what am I going to spend based on what I need, or like what I could spend, or a fixed percentage, right? And we also let people kind of budget different ways, like basically, or you could do a kind of a detailed one with your must spend dollars and see how that changes everything, or a like to spend dollars. So we make it pretty easy for people to kind of see the differences here, and pop around. And that's one way they can adapt it.
I want to be clear. Doug was kidding about Ohio, by the way. I got people going, "Oh no, we live in Ohio." Doug, if you've never heard our podcast, Doug doesn't stop. So Ohio
but was he really?
Is all right too. But Steve, it's great because these big expenses, right? I mean, I mentioned the RV, but we're going to buy the second house, or we're going to retire, let's say we're going to retire early. Let's say we want to retire at 55 versus retire at 62.
Yep. Yeah, it's super easy. Like before I built the scenario, retiring at 57, and you can see it kind of like pivots the whole thing. So we have this idea of, being able to kind of build and manage scenarios and compare them. So you could come in here and see that and kind of compare these things. And
just look, by the way, on the left, it showed 88%. We saw the percentage go down, the chance of success go down.
Yeah, I'm looking at it side by side, right? So here I'm kind of looking at retiring at 62 versus 57, and you can see, hey, my net worth at the end of the plan here is 5 million. Here it's 1.3. Here it's at retirement age, my net worth is a little bit lower, but yeah, my probability of success is down. Average income is down. So it's pretty easy to create a different scenario, basically copying the first one and then changing a bunch of parameters around. And so users do that. And they might have people like to have a plan A, B, and C. Plan A is I'm doing this, but plan B is like, oh, I'm forced to retire early, but what's that look like? Can I still be confident? A lot of people discover they can retire now. A lot of people want to know if they can retire. And I think it's really powerful for them to say, oh, I thought I had to work till I was 65 and I can retire at 62.
That's fantastic.
So
that is great news. OG, I was going to ask you about something related to that, about the fact that a lot of people, looking into now Monte Carlo simulations, right? Where they're looking at this percent chance. And I know that a lot of people doing their own plans, they want to see 99%, but I don't think, do professionals look for 99% or 100% chance that that's going to happen?
No, I don't. I would be interested to hear what you have to say about the data that you see with your users, Steve. But I think that I kind of what you said there at the very end, which is a lot of people find out they can retire now. I think that the vast majority of people want to see that graph go up and to the right forever. And even the one that we're looking at right now, where it goes down a little bit, there's probably a handful of people that are like, I don't know. It says I die with only 3 million. Is that going to be enough? It's like, yeah, it's enough. Like $1 is enough technically, you know? And by the way, I don't know what age you have out here. In our plans, we use age 100, just because, you know, you can't prove to me that it's any other number. So I might as well pick a long one. But I think that the vast majority of people can retire sooner than they think, and also can be more, I guess aggressive would be the right word, right? More aggressive with the Monte Carlo number. It doesn't have to be 90, 80. I might get a little squirrely below 70. And I'll tell you the just kind of anecdotally here real quick, how I think about this is I don't think about it in terms of probability of success, because that sounds way different than probability of having to make a change. So we've got this plan put together, right? And you say, I want to spend this amount of money. I'm going to have this tax rate. I'm going to have this growth rate. I'm a da, 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 da. Well, how likely is it that for the next 30 years, you're not going to make any changes to that? You're not going to spend a little more one year, maybe a little less. You're not going to, I mean, we all know people that have broke a hip and had the trip planned and said, well, I can't go this year. I'm physically unable to. I'll go next year. Changes their spending a little bit, right? Just, you know, the timing of that. I mean, Doug's probably going to break a hip any day now, frankly. I mean, his feeble bones. But anyway, so shots fired. It's like 8 o'clock at night.
Just sitting over here.
This is what you get. You put me on stage at 8 o'clock. You just get what you get. But my point is that you're likely to make changes to your plan anyway. And so when I look at this and I say, hey, there's an 88% chance of success, I think about this like there's a 1 in 10 chance about that you have to make a change to your plan. And it could be a good change, honestly, but you might be like, well, this year we have to spend a little less, you know? So I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point, OG. It's like, we're actually going to add this kind of these, income guardrails. People talk about that, right?
Sure.
So really, you know,
it's all the rage these days.
Yeah. They index a lot on this like chance of success, but really you want to index, you know, you're highly likely to be successful. And many people people that have money when they retire, they die with more money. They keep building wealth. I just talked to one of the guys that had our podcast, Fritz Gilbert, and you know, he retired 6 years ago at like 55. And 6 years later, I was like, do you have more money? He's like, I have more money. I'm like, you haven't worked for 6 years, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I got more money. I'm like, okay, you know, that's what happens. And I think another thing to keep in mind, I don't know if people have read Die with Zero, but that guy talks about you want to have your kind of peak wealth, you know, in your like 45 to 65-year-old range, right? And then you use your human capital and your money to enjoy yourself, right? When you can, because a lot of people are indexing. It's like, I'm going to have a ton of money when I'm 90. If you look at your probability of being alive or being, you know, not alive, that's really high at the same time. And I think people need to
match it up to your life expectancy. It's interesting when you talk to people who have retired, especially a little earlier, right? 55, 50, 54, something like that. And then you talk to them a little bit later and they say, yeah, I should have done this in my late 40s. Like if I would have known,
should have gone sooner,
you know, what are you going to do with $10 million at 90 that you can't do with $5 million at 75?
Well, and I like in this Monte Carlo simulation discussion, you know, the fact, OG, that you said this is chance that I'll have to change, because Steve, you said this earlier, it isn't a plan, it's planning, right?
Yeah.
So if I can get there with a 75% chance, and that seems to
think of it this way too, Joe. When you look at how Monte Carlo, and I don't know if you guys use 1,000 scenarios, Steve, in your example, or if you use 10,000, but when you say this 88% chance, you have to get through retirement one time. When you do a Monte Carlo, this is 1,000 scenarios, 1,000 times you ran this, and you know, or maybe 10,000. It's like 880 of the times it was fine. Like that's a lot. That's I mean, 880 people out of a room of 1,000 are not going to make any changes to their plan based on, you know, downside changes to their plan based on various market fluctuation. So full send,
I think that's exactly right. And I think one of the things we want to make clear to people, and this is something we can do better, it's that, in 880 times, because we ran it 1,000 times, right? You're good. And the 120 other times, the change you might have to make is probably pretty freaking small. Like you might have
spent, it happens at 87.
Yeah, right. Everyone's like, oh, for the other 120 times, I'm completely out of money. No, that's not true. For the other 120 times, you know, maybe you have to spend, you know, $200 less a month and you're fine. So I think that's something we want to make really clear to people.
This is why I like paying attention to the benchmarks too. I need to be at X amount of money by Y date so that I know if I'm ahead or behind on that. And by the way, Doug, somehow I got roped into your Ohio comment because our friend Frank hanging out with us, he says, I'm still butthurt from the Skyline chili. I hate that economy. Frank, that is a lie. And by the way, I did not get a chance to, I was sick, as Frank knows, for most of economy. So I didn't even make it to Skyline Chili, which was tough. But
I would like to submit, since I now have a son going to A&M, I would also like to admit anybody from Austin.
That's my kid, OG. Oh, that's my, come on.
Orange down, man.
All right.
What are you gonna do?
Let's start taking some questions. Doug, have you been looking at some of the questions on here that people have had?
I have, Joe. I have. And let me see
7,000 of them.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions. So let me see if I can get some of those up here. You know, I liked a really simple question that Jennifer Coldy. I'm going to nail everybody's name. So if I don't pronounce it, it's the way you
just
should
say Jennifer. I think you can pronounce Jennifer.
Yeah, Jennifer. How do you plan with only a 10-year runway?
With only a 10-year runway before you're going to retire?
That's what I gather. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think, you know, the answer, everyone was always going to say, when is the best time to start saving? It was like, whatever, 10 years ago, but you know, it is what it is. I would say that, you know, I've seen this in my own life. Like my mother-in-law, she got very serious about saving and building for retirement as she approached retirement. And she put a lot of good practices into place. And there's also catch-up provisions and stuff like that. And was able to kind of like get into a much better financial situation. So, you know, I think it's understanding what's available to you. And for many folks that are 50 plus, 55 plus, you can save more, right? You can like think about how you're going to claim Social Security. You can, you know, maybe consider working part-time, you know, and, you know, you can also consider other trade-offs. Like, you know, there are many cheaper. I mean, I live in Northern California, right? If I didn't live in Northern California, I could retire tomorrow. It's just like, I choose to live here, but it's, you know, there's a lot of, you know, go live in Mexico for.
Well, and with respect to using the calculator, I think I start off with a minimum, right? What is the small amount that I know that I can do 10 years from now? Like, what can I do? And I start calculating out what can I do? And to your point, maybe I do, Steve, have to model in some income during the first X number of years. How long do I have to work part-time at maybe a job for less money than a job that I can stand, you know, to make money part-time there. I think that's where I begin modeling. And that's where the computer comes in, like where, you know, what's the baseline. And once I have that gives me then something to shoot for that I've got. Doug, I've got one right here that I like. Carl asks, what if I'm already retired? Does this calculator show my progress? I think we showed that it does, Carl, but he says also it won't let me enter that I have no mortgage.
Okay. You should be able to enter that you have no mortgage. So you know, you can set it up that if you go through onboarding, it'll let you enter that you have no mortgage. And it works at any point in time, right? This was designed, this company used to be called New Retirement. So it is like a little bit more optimized for approaching and then decumulating in retirement, but it does work across your whole life. You can start, we have, you know, people that are 20 years old using this thing. And it's meant to, you enter your plan, you track against your goals, you track your progress and keep coming back to it. And I think people like it because it gives them visibility into what's coming. And, you know, the only constant is change, right? Market's changing, interest rates are changing, right? Taxes and regulation are changing. So we change some stuff for you. Like we'll update taxes in here. You can come in here and, you know, actually one of the things that's kind of interesting is you can come in here and basically like change tax rates and stuff like that, which is kind of interesting. So like you can fall back to in here, like go back to 2017 tax rates and it'll redo your whole plan, stuff like that. But we keep, you know, kind of tax rates up to date for people.
Well, and it's funny, Steve, Rebecca talked about this, says, I like the way it is set up so we can try lots of different scenarios. As things change, let's say taxes change, you could put that right in the calculator to show the change there. Doug, what's another one we've got? Doug is on mute.
So Robin asks, how often should we look at a retirement calculator? Is this, I'm guessing Robin's wondering, you look at this every week, once a year, once a quarter? How often do you check back in on it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Most of our users, when they're getting set up, they're kind of using it a lot more because they're kind of pulling all their numbers together, thinking about their scenarios. And then it's more episodic. Some people are quarterly, some people are annually, some people are, if something happened, like, okay, someone lost their job or I decided to retire early, someone got sick, someone's getting married, whatever, they want to put it in there. That's what we don't know, right? But I think having a place that's living, like your living plan that you can go back to, and you're like, okay, guess what? Susie's going to get married, and we got to pay for this, and it's going to, we think it's going to be $100,000 to pay for a wedding. You can throw that in there and say, how does that affect my situation?
I've got one here from Rebecca. How do you model in the calculator this idea of sequence of return risk, Steve? So maybe I'm going to take money out the first couple of years from cash or from very low risk investments.
Yeah, so we have this ability here in money flows to kind of like manage withdrawals and stuff like that. So we have different withdrawal strategies that you can put in here, and also withdrawal orders. So some users do this bucket strategy where they'll be like, I'm going to have an account that, is for the next 1, 2, or 3 years. And they'll put that in here and they'll make that, hey, all the money's coming out of this. And then they're kind of going back and reloading that and moving money into that. So that's one way you can do it. Some folks do they think about their must-have spending and they try to fill that with Social Security. Maybe they have a pension.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they buy an annuity on top of that. So like, I'm guaranteed to have enough. Like, I'm not going to run out of, like, I'll always have income that meets my core needs. And with the rest of the money, they take higher risk. So you can model all that kind of stuff in this platform.
When you talked about annuity, it made me think of longevity risk. Can I change my life expectancy in here, or is it just an average?
Yeah, no, you can come in here and basically control it.
Because Doug's like, I want to go sooner. I want to live fast, die hard, man.
Yeah. So
You're damn right.
Yes. All this talk about Monte Carlo situations. I love Kay Sand's comment. My daughter's just in Monte Carlo. She loved it. So there you go. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even a simulation. They went to the real place. Doug, what else we got?
I've got a question here from Sam, who says, I've seen varying net worth estimates in different calculators. What are a few things that make yours accurate?
Yeah, I think, well, one, you can get super granular with ours, right? You can, and you can dive. I mean, if you want to dive into your numbers and like look at it with, you can print it out, right? Or you can basically come in here and like, look at all the numbers, right, that are driving your plan. So there's that. There's the fact that there's hundreds of thousands of users that have used it, right? We have CFPs on staff that are using it. We have coaches and CFPs that are using this thing as well, and people are reviewing their plans. There are also a lot of our users, they get, they might get a plan from Money Guide Pro or eMoney from their advisor, and they do ours and they compare them, right? They want to get a second opinion.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah.
And so we hear from a lot of folks that, hey, good news, my numbers, most people, my numbers matched up, right? I think we would hear it from people if they were like, oh, this is wildly different.
I just like the idea of, on a base level, even, if you meet with an advisor, that that your stuff. I mean, a little bit about what you're doing. So you're not just trusting someone. You're actually, you're somebody that is the CEO of your financial situation. Somebody asked about if-then scenarios. Can we do those? Yes, I think we've shown a few of those. Doug, you got another one? Doug's back on mute again.
Well,
I remember my first day doing a live.
When you've got, when your dogs are in northern Michigan, they bark at every deer that walks by the window. So I'm trying to protect everybody from that.
Gotcha. We also don't let Doug talk very much. So,
we have KK, who says most calculators use worst case scenarios. Do you think that's reliable, or will that cause you to oversave?
Okay, well, let me, one of the reasons we started this company is that and I've worked in financial services. Most of financial services is a pretty opaque business, right? It's like, you don't really know, it's not very transparent. You don't really know how people are paid, right? And they're either paid on assets under management or transaction fees typically, or interest if it's like, debt, right? And I think one thing that's different about us is we charge users for our product. You will pay us to use the software because we want to be completely aligned with you. And even though RIAs are supposed to be, they are fiduciaries, right? They've committed to acting in your best interest. But like one thing I actually interviewed this guy, Glenn Nakamoto, on our podcast. He was like, hey, I wanted to buy an annuity. This guy's a former CIA analyst, very smart guy. And he's like, he went around and talked to a bunch of RIAs and he said, can I buy an annuity? And they're like, no, let's do it with bond ladders. Let's do it this way or that way. And he's like, I actually ran the numbers. I think in buying an annuity could be good for me. And no one would do it, but part of it could be incentives, right? I would say many folks want you to be afraid so that you save lots of money. If their income is tied to how much money you have saved up, like it could be that you're going to get input that says save more money, right? Versus our goal is to help you make good decisions, right? And control your own money. You pay us for that, and we don't make money otherwise. So I think that's one reason you might see different outcomes from different kinds of tools.
I think it's always important to know how people are paid. I also think it's important to know, that you've got a person on your team that really that has your back and that you're able to work really well with. Let's wrap this up. Do we have a winner, Doug? Do we have winners?
Absolutely, Joe.
All right. Here we go. I don't see who. Oh, we do have the winners. I see the winners. All right, Doug.
Yeah.
Who's taking home the 3 subscriptions and the copies of my book?
Well, hey there, stackers. I'm Math Lover and the guy who knew that 5318008 spelled out something really fun on my calculator, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug.
You got to be a certain age to get that joke, I think.
Y'all just grabbed your calculator and you're doing it right now.
Yeah,
right
I'm
there.
sure.
And now just try turning it upside down. Yeah, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
The Pascaline calculator was built with a series of wheels and gears, and because of its complexity and cost, was never widely adopted, but it did lay the groundwork for calculators to come. So, in some ways, the Boldin machine is like an awkward, nerdy love child of Pascal's calculator, isn't it? You already know that the calculator was created in 1642 because we told you, but we asked you to guess when Paula Pant thought it was created. And since we had so much great participation tonight, we're giving away 3 glorious prize packages. And our winners are Joseph Skillen, who missed Paula's guess by just 89 years, ACAR 83, it's a weird name for a birth certificate, who missed Paula's guess by just 9 years, and Gordon Wong was off by 0 years.
Bam!
Because he apparently had dinner with Paula tonight. Because he guessed exactly what Paula guessed, which was 1501. Way to go, everybody.
I wonder if he texted Paula and said, hey, Paula,
help a brother out.
What did you say? All 3 of you, Gordon, Joseph, and ACAR83, just email me, joe@stackingbenjamins.com, and we will get you those subscriptions to Steve's awesome product. Thank you so much, Steve, for helping us out. Thanks, OG, for doing some night work tonight. How about that?
My overtime bill will be substantial.
Thanks to all of you for hanging out tonight with us. If you've got other questions, Steve, people got other questions, where do they find you?
Yeah, people can email me at steve.chen@boldin.com, or I'm on LinkedIn, or you can find me on Twitter. I think I'm under the old handle, New Retirement, but yeah, I'm out there. It's appreciate the opportunity to be here, Joe and OG and neighbor Doug, and also to everyone here who showed up from the false start. It's like there's a lot of people that made it over. So
somebody wrote, show us the button. You have no idea. We pressed the button. We were recording. We had a whole countdown timer. We had all this brilliance. And then I go over and I'm like, why is it not showing up?
My
favorite.
favorite.
We got to do the outtakes. So it was only 3 times that Joe, you're getting pretty stressed out over here. Like, it's not working.
Yeah. We got to thank a few people, but OG.
No, I was just going to say, while all that was going on, I was just compiling all the funny comments that people were making while it was not going on.
It was
Somebody wrote, I used to wait 10 minutes for my professor. I don't think this qualifies.
You get credit for the class. For
Yeah,
10
you
minutes
still
later.
get credit. And,
my
somebody else
God.
said the top 5 mistakes you can make with YouTube live events.
It was horrible. Well,
funny.
you know what? I got to thank a few people that we don't thank enough around here. Tina in the background
Tina
has
figured
been,
it out. Thank you, Tina.
she's been helping us a ton. She helped us set this up. It's so frustrating that our solution we use, Riverside, goes off every time. This time we set it up the same way. It didn't go. Thanks also to Kevin, who writes our 201. Kevin Bailey is amazing. If you want to get our newsletter, the 201, there's the link, stackingbenjamins.com/201. We also have 2 amazing interns, Debony and Cree, who really did a lot of the legwork to set this up. They're 2 amazing young ladies who are at our local university, Texas A&M, Texarkana branch. OG, we've got A&M right here in our backyard. So big thanks to Debony and Cree for the work that they did doing this. And thanks to all of you for hanging out with us here tonight. We hope you got a lot out of it. We'd love to do more of these in the future. And Steve, don't be a stranger, man. Let's do this again soon.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on here. It's been great.
It has been so great. All right, everybody, we made it. Doug, take us home, man. What should we have learned today?
Well, Joe, first, take some advice from Steve Chen. When you're looking for a retirement calculator, pick the one that makes the coolest looking graphs. Did I get that right, Steve? I think I heard you, but if you need to correct me, you need to just polish my words a little bit. Go ahead.
No, it's good. Yeah, we definitely invest in design. I'll give a shout out to Rachel Diesel, our head of design, and she's built a really good design team. We know people appreciate it.
Second, don't forget what OG said about understanding how different income will work downstream with each other. OG, can you just summarize that again for us?
Yeah, just use the calculator and it will tell you.
Oh, wow. Awesome. But the big lesson, don't try and end an online event without letting Joe's mom say hello. She wanted me to say thank you for coming, and she's very proud of you, especially you, right over. Yeah, you. Thanks to Steve Chen for joining us today. You'll find the Boldin calculator through our link at stackingbenjamins.com/Boldin. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Thanks, everybody.
I think it's stackingbenjamins.calculator. Doug, I think I put that in there wrong.
Okay. Stacking Benjamins. Should I start from the top? Let's start the
can
whole
you do that
show
all
over
over
again.
We should do the whole thing over again. All right, everybody. Have a great night.
All right, thanks. Good night.